My name is Erin O'Neil, and I'm a Upper Arlington native, so I grew up here, so it's kind of cool to be presenting in my childhood library. Thank you again for joining us. Come on in, come sit closer. So this is a little bit about my adventures. I spent 6 months living in China last year after I graduated, so this is a little bit about my story and my experiences moving to Asia, having no knowledge of Mandarin or any Asian dialect, not understanding how to really rent my first apartment, let alone do it in Chinese, and kind of getting familiar with that adult lifestyle in a completely different country. So, how did I end up in Asia to begin with? In the summer of 2016, I participated in a 6-week internship through my university, Upper University, as a digital media production major. So I did videography and photography for a social enterprise. It was kind of a startup in Shanghai. The boss is American, so it was nice to not have a language barrier. So I went over and I worked with him for 6 weeks. And I worked for him throughout the rest of the school year as I finished up my degree. And then that February, before I graduated, he sent me, this is a little bit about what the job looks like. So a lot of video cameras, meeting people, and connecting with people who are in the similar line of work that I was. So he sent me an email that said, I'd like you to come back. I want you to spend at least, up to 3 months, maybe 6 months, working on projects with me here and there, producing videos, producing digital media that will help me grow my company. And one of the lines was, expenses obviously covered, equipment provided, salary to be discussed, awesome, leave guaranteed. He proposed that I go over. I make $7 an hour, not the best out of college, but he was going to pay me to go to up to 5, maybe 6 different countries all throughout Asia. Hi, thank you for coming. So I, of course, said, as a recent college graduate, I was like, this is kind of taking a risk, because I'm not going to be establishing myself in a career in the United States to start paying off my student loans, to start developing my career, as most of us millennials feel like we need to be in that pattern of doing. And so I decided to take a risk because I'm a natural adventurer, and I trusted him to fulfill that area of my life where I wanted to make a little bit of money, but primarily live a life that I felt passionate about. So spring of 2017, I graduated, and 1 month later, I was packing up 6 months worth of my life and moving to Asia. If you would like a comical story about the plane ride over, feel free to ask me later or check out my blog. It is quite a story to remember. So here's what I knew going into it. I knew how to navigate the metro. The 6 weeks I'd spent the summer before made sense to me. Could figure out the metro. I knew where to locate the best pasta, those delicious meat buns. I knew the wonderful world of WeChat, which I'll introduce to you in just a moment. I knew the basics of how to use chopsticks, although I was no pro and I still don't claim to be. I knew the type of power adapters I needed. I knew how to say hello, ni hao, and thank you, xie xie. And I knew what the currency looked like. What I didn't know was just about everything else. I didn't know how to find an apartment. I didn't know how to go grocery shopping. I didn't know how to read any of the labels on the food. And I obviously did not know how to communicate. I had to learn how to be vulnerable very quickly. Vulnerability is not something that comes easy to a lot of us. It's scary to put ourselves out there and put ourselves into the hands of strangers and ask them to help us along. But this was something that I had to grasp quickly, or else I wouldn't have survived. So first things first was getting connected. Shanghai is a very international city, but it's also a very technologically forward city. So your best friend in China is going to be WeChat. If you ever end up going, has anyone been to China? Awesome. Anyone been to Asia? Anywhere in Asia, including China. Secret, of course. So WeChat is going to be your best friend if you ever find yourself in China. Just kind of a brief video of what WeChat looks like. So it is messaging, so it's like iMessage or text messaging, also rolled into a profile that's similar to social media. You can friend people by scanning their QR codes, much like Snapchat has now. It is also a wallet, so you can use it just like you would Venmo or PayPal. You can donate to charity, you can hail a cab, you can order food delivery, you can get movie tickets, you can ask for a bike share program, you can pay your utilities. WeChat does just about everything. It is also Instagram and Facebook all rolled into one. So talk about having it figured out and rolling all your social media into one. Now it is monitored by the Chinese government, so that's just kind of something you give up, but it's an awesome platform and a great way to stay connected with people. It also has really cute stickers, which is the primary reason that my boyfriend and I still use WeChat, even though I've been in the States for a year now. So kind of like I said, I was added to a couple different apartment groups when I was looking for an apartment in Shanghai. And I would just scroll through the newsfeed and kind of find things that looked good to me and flip through the pictures and then start contacting the person who had posted it, which is how I found my apartment. A little scary, a little nerve-wracking, but it worked. I also got connected with a group chat of other expats living in Shanghai. I met this guy at the gym and he added me to his chat. It's a great resource to have as an independent expat living in Shanghai for the first time because they gave all kinds of tips from the best way to get train tickets to translation issues. They really came in handy in solving a lot of the problems that I had. It also has file transfer feature in case you're a visual media major like me. Although these group chats did have some comical participants as I was asking for recommendations on how to go about asking where my package was left in the mailing office, and it was recommended that I show them this, which means when it's translated, when the full moon I become a potato. So you have to be careful, don't trust everyone. But WeChat fortunately has a translation portion that comes quite in handy. And it translates more than just Asian dialects, so it's really cool to talk to other people who are traveling through Asia in Spanish and Italian. You can translate all of that to your native language. So WeChat is a huge asset for multiple different reasons. So I was an amateur at house hunting. Like I said, I found my apartment on WeChat. I contacted the girl, and I got very, very lucky. This was a 4-bedroom apartment. Obviously, my kitchen wasn't actually that clean. I took it from the website. So we had a little living room area. I was very fortunate in finding a bathroom where the shower head wasn't directly over the toilet, because that is a very common thing in small apartments in China. Consolidate space doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me, but if you want to shower and use the toilet at the same time, you can do it in China. We also had the washing machine in there, which took a couple different tries to figure out since it's obviously written in characters and not English. So this is kind of a little bit of my bizarre, this was my room right here, a little bit of my bizarre layout for an apartment. 4 people shared this fridge that was about yay high. So sharing is caring. This is my bedroom, in case that middle schooler in you was wondering what my bedroom looks like. This is it. So yellow, not exactly my color, but it worked for this. And this was my apartment lease that I was very glad had at least some English in it. Because when I started looking at all of these pages, my brain went, oh my God, I'm going to get screwed over. But I learned to trust the people who were helping me through this, and trust my agent, who I was also somehow speaking to in Mandarin through other people. So these conversations look really scary when you don't know what they say. But I had to learn how to be vulnerable, and I had to learn how to trust the people who were helping me to communicate back and forth with my agents. So trust was another thing that I really had to learn quickly. It goes right along with vulnerability and handing over yourself to other people to ask them for help, which we all don't like to do. It's okay to admit. Then I had to figure out how to pay for stuff. Dollars weren't going to get me very far. So I had 2 options. I had WeChat, which I kind of showed you before, and then I had Alipay. Alipay is a very similar app, except it just doesn't have the text feature. So I could pay my utility bills on here. So this is what my utility bills looked like that I paid for. I hit buttons until it showed me a little check mark, and the money disappeared from my account. I have no idea what it said. The thing about me, the benefit that millennials have is that we just kind of try stuff until it works. Am I right? I luckily didn't do anything too dumb. So you can also order an Uber, but in order to have Alipay and WeChat Pay, you have to have a Chinese bank account. It took me about 3 to 4 tries to finally get a bank account open, and did it all in Mandarin, even though I couldn't speak a single word. So it took a matter of taking the form that they gave me, it was all in Mandarin, and going back and forth between Google Translate and trying to figure out what I was supposed to put where on the form, and then finally taking it in and having the lady go, bank card, cool. So I locked myself out of the ATM a few times, but I managed to figure out my way around it. Once I got the money into the bank account, I could easily get it to WeChat, and from then, I had an ATM wherever I went. So if I went up to Kim and I said, Kim, I need 20 kwai cash, I could just send her electronically 20, she'd give me 20, and I did that in the Summer Palace. I went up to a stranger, I couldn't talk to them, but I said, I need money, but I send you money on WeChat, will you give me cash? And they were, okay, cool, sweet, done. ATM everywhere, it's awesome. But the tricky part was, now don't tell me out loud, but think about your bank PIN number. You have it memorized, right? The way that your finger moves, because you do it so routinely, you've got it memorized. Now think about what numbers that's associated with, and try to do it on this thing.
Wow.
It makes no sense. Not to mention that when you do this electronically, the apps are programmed to jumble the numbers randomly for security purposes. So even when I learned it on here, every single app had a different way of jumbling every time I made a transaction. So cautiousness was very important. I literally had to learn how to count all over again. I knew how to count to 10 in Mandarin from the previous summer, but that only got me so far. I also had to learn how to do banking, how to pay my bills. The concept of money became so much more difficult. And the only thing that really got me through it was when this lady sat down with me and she showed me exactly how to do it. I couldn't communicate, but I could follow the steps that she did to make it work. I had no idea what she was saying. It probably would have been transferring her hundreds of dollars, but I did it and it paid my bills and it worked. Vulnerability, trust, and learning from others. I guess I had to eat food. Fortunately, I'm not a very big eater, so it wasn't very difficult for me. But walking into a grocery store that looked like this was Nianhua, my choice of grocer when I was over there, was a little bit intimidating. There was a bunch of unknown meat in packages that I had no idea what the contents were. I kind of strayed away from them. And then of course they've got their weird flavors of chips and kind of so every once in a while you find an import store, which was nice, but if you want to pay $5 for a gallon of milk, you're going to go broke pretty fast. So I found lactol, which is a French import. Translated directly through Google Translate doesn't make any sense, but I learned that this was a reliable brand of milk and I bought it and it awkwardly sat on my shelf instead of in the fridge. So I had to adapt to the different ways of purchasing and storing groceries as well. Thankfully, some of the stores had pictures, so I knew that that was chicken. I can't guarantee I would have known. And this is something called a winter melon that I purely put on here for your entertainment because it's ginormous. And my roommate Jenny and I were very perplexed. It is apparently very delicious and good for keeping cool during the summer months. In case you were interested in what flavors Lay's chips has over there, they have Italian, red meat flavor, and American classic. They also have Oreos if you have a Oreo craving, which is slightly off-branded. We've got Quaker Oats, yes, but it is flavored like purple rice and yam. So, I didn't try it. And then we've got duck tongue and chicken feet, in case you want to do anything else with it. Eventually, I found a grocer that I believe is European brand, Carrefour. It was a little bit more like your common American grocery store. They still had some foods that I didn't recognize and personally wouldn't purchase because of that. But they also had very familiar things that I could kind of sway myself to. However, you knew that you were still in China because there was just this. Very common. Not anything you'd see in an American or European grocery store. I had to learn how to be uncertain. The foods I was buying, unfortunately, I just started a health kick when I moved over. So I was really into reading all the ingredients of my food, and I eventually had to give up and just say, I'm okay with being uncertain. I mean, I'm not going to buy something that I have no idea what it is and what shape that it is, but I felt okay kind of buying familiar foods, not knowing if they were purely organic or devoid of sugars and salts. But I began to kind of get into a routine where I bought frozen fruits and I would make smoothies that I could get my antioxidants in the morning, and kind of using some skills that I took from here and finding the foods that best fit that and the budget over in Shanghai. But that's a whole other presentation that I won't drag you through. So So technologically, China has, and specifically Shanghai, has some great programs for grocery delivery programs. So Fields is one of them that I used every once in a while. It's a little bit more expensive, but it's all in English, yay. And then you could go through and you could sort by the different foods that you were looking to purchase. They had fairly reasonable prices, so it was a good backup to if I just didn't feel like going to a grocery store and wearing myself out. Because I kid you not, grocery store trips, it took 2 hours for like 5 items. So this came in handy when I was just feeling like having it easy, and then they deliver it straight to your apartment. Same with, I believe it's pronounced Hema. It is a food delivery app that's similar to Fields, but all in Mandarin, so it's a little bit cheaper. And if you need literally 1 dozen eggs, they will buy 1 dozen eggs, free shipping, and bring it to your apartment in a half hour. So if you're in the middle of cooking and you forgot something, half hour, you got it. Just as cheap as going to the grocery store. Here we have to pay a boatload of shipping. And then we have Ola, which is a food delivery app. I'm trying to think of what I don't use food delivery apps here, like Grubhub, there's a good one. So it's like Grubhub where you can order different things from different restaurants all over the city. You can also order things from convenience stores. So if you needed batteries, hop on here, order a pack of batteries, and they bring it to you in 5 minutes. It's obviously all in Chinese, so I had no idea what I was ordering. As an indecisive individual myself, this became a difficult feat. So I would scroll through, and I would just kind of look at the pictures. We can all recognize that on there. I'd look at the pictures, and I'd kind of look at the ratings, see the prices, and then I just kind of, I literally hit that button on one of these. I'd find something that looked enticing, and then I would have to screenshot it, and then switch over to Google Translate, where I would then upload the photo, and it would tell me that it is hot and sour potato. Helpful, very helpful. So in case that wasn't looking very appealing to me, I would go and scroll through something else. So I did this one night for an hour and a half before I finally went out and just got something from the street corner because I was too indecisive and nothing was very clear. So I scroll through, and then I'd screenshot something else, and every once in a while I would try to look at the ingredients to see if I could kind of pick out what that food was. So in this particular instance, it told me that it was minced sour bean, and that it had no comment yet, so that was a typical mishap. So of course, once I found the one food that I like, I just ordered it over and over and over again. Well, I think my controller is died. Yep, I think it died. You might need to bear with me here. Thank you, Josh. So this is how your food would be delivered on the back of a motorbike. If you've ever been in New York traffic or Shanghai traffic or LA traffic, imagine these guys whipping around every vehicle, including other bikes, and on the sidewalks. They are one of the most dangerous group of drivers in the city, but they get you your food real fast. So as someone who was biking in Shanghai, these guys terrified the crap out of me, but they got me my food in about 5 to 10 minutes, so no plates there. So I had to learn patience. Scrolling through every app and going to the grocery store with Google Translate and just scanning things until I found what I was looking for took a lot of patience. And now if something takes more than 5 minutes, I don't panic about it because I spent an hour and a half looking for food one night and never decided what to eat. So patience was a huge thing for me as well. So this is a little bit about my home sweet Shanghai. Shanghai is a very up-and-coming city. So I was fortunate to be there as a lot of social entrepreneurs and regular entrepreneurs were starting their movement. So the health movement was a big one. It's not cheap to do this in Shanghai, but there were even all organic smoothies, there were all organic places to go. This is Lizzie's. So she even ran an all-day program where we went and we biked throughout the city, we did sand meditations, we went kickboxing, and this was open to expats and locals. So there were awesome groups like this that helped get me involved in the local city life, as well as introduce different concepts of eating healthy and being healthy in a city where everything is so bustling and crazy that sometimes you just want to go back home and hide from the chaos of it all. But this kind of helped bring me out into the world, and I heard about a lot of these programs through WeChat, through other expats that I was connected with. So Shanghai fortunately had a lot going on, and still has a lot going on, and is constantly adding new programs for expats and locals alike to kind of get together and start these movements. If you like working out, this is your new gym. These pieces of equipment are basically in every park, frequented by the elderly population, not very frequently populated by the younger populations, but I tell you what, the elderly in China are the most agile people I have ever met. They are constantly exercising and constantly out walking, doing Tai Chi. I'll show you a picture of them dancing later. Constant momentum. And it was a real inspiration to walk by and see people who in the States would probably be unable to walk, moving around and continuing to show that dedication to continuing that agility that we all need so badly in our lives. So this was your everyday gym. I decided to go a different route, and this was the gym that I found. I bought this gym membership for a discount of the woman who I took the apartment from, since she had it through the end of the year. But they had a group fitness schedule. It was one of the few gyms in Shanghai that was clean and reliable and cost effective. So it had the equipment that you would see in the States. So this decision primarily came from a place of wanting to feel something familiar. So I had spent the months leading up to Shanghai working out and spending more time in the gym, and I really wanted to continue something from my routine to make me feel at home and at peace with where I was going with my life. So this was a decision and investment that I made that I didn't budge on, because I knew that that was important to me to have that place to go. So when you travel, especially if you're going abroad for a longer period of time, finding something that means something to you and is important to your everyday routine will help you get over those road bumps. Mobike is one of my favorite features of my home sweet Shanghai. It is a bike share program that is run entirely with your phone. So it's a mobile app, and they're starting to bring these into the United States more frequently. But China got it right first. So you would just go up to the bike, and it would have a little QR code, and you would scan it with the app, and a lock on the back of the bike would unlock, and then you could take your bike, and you could go wherever you'd like. And you could leave it anywhere you wanted, outside of your apartment, middle of the street. Wouldn't recommend it, but you could do that, because the bike lock was worked into the back of the bike. So this was a great program, incredibly cheap way to get around, and it kept you active. They tried to do this with umbrellas, and it didn't work because no one brought them back. So, fun tidbit of information. So in addition to all of these things, I learned adaptation. So I had to learn to adapt to a lot of my daily routine and the things that I was so familiar with doing that I didn't even realize were routine until I went to go to the ATM, punch in my PIN, and went, wait, I can't do that here. So adaptation was a big piece of travel and moving anywhere, really. I mean, even within the United States, heck, even to Canada, you're going to have to adapt in some ways. So this was one of the biggest adaptations for me. So Shanghai began to teach me a lot of things. It kind of became a mentor for me. And when you're moving somewhere new, and I'm going to talk a little bit about this in a minute, but being open-minded is one of the most important aspects, because a place can teach you so much about yourself and the world around you if you're open-minded to receiving it. So one of the things that I learned, you have to be aggressive. Be aggressive. Every man for himself in Shanghai. If you're late to work, that is your own problem. No one's going to help you along the way. Now, granted, there were moments where I was standing, I was waiting for the metro, and an old man came over and he started pointing aggressively at my purse, and I was like, yes, it's a purse, thank you. And he kept going like this, and so I looked, and the very small, tiny outside pocket of my purse was unzipped. He would not leave me alone until I zipped that purse before I got on the metro. And it was moments like those that made me realize that yes, you're out for yourself, but there are still people who care about you. And I'm not sure if it was because I looked like a helpless traveler that made me vulnerable to people wanting to go out of their way to help me. But every so often, Shanghai would surprise me, and someone would go out of their way to make sure that I was on the right track. Shame is a decision, guys. If you want to roll up your shirt when it's hot outside and let it all hang, you do that, because no one will judge you for it. If you want to wear your pajamas in public, more power to you. It's comfy, I've done it, it's great. If you want to dance in the middle of a park midday, or heck, even at 11 o'clock at night, because that's when most of the women outside were dancing out in my apartment, you can do that. It's a decision to feel shame. You decide whether or not you are embarrassed by your actions. And this was a huge thing for me, because I was so embarrassed that I was by myself. I didn't know what I was doing. You know, people were probably judging me taking 2 hours at a grocery store. But as long as I decided not to be ashamed by it, and not to feel embarrassed that I didn't know what I was doing, I didn't feel shame. So thank you, John, for talking about that. The other big thing that I learned was impermanence. I finally found a bank that I liked going to. I would go every week after work on Fridays. I would stock up on cash, put it into the ATM, and then put it in my WeChat, Alipay, all the electronic things that I had going on. And so I finally found a bank that was convenient for me, and I was familiar with it. And so I went there on a Thursday, and then I ended up having to go back the next day. And I kid you not, that next day that I went back, chains on the doors, windows busted out, wires hanging everywhere, ATMs ripped out. It was just gone. And not just the ATM, but the entire bank was just demolished overnight. Shanghai is a city that is constantly moving. It's constantly innovating and destroying and rebuilding. And so when my career, the career that I moved over to China for, the job that I picked up 6 months of my postgraduate life and sacrificed being able to pay my loans on time and with reliability, and starting that career in the United States to help get me that footing to climb that ladder that we all so desperately want to climb, when that job failed me and I was making $7 an hour, traveling nowhere, being constantly belittled in front of the people that I had so been excited to connect with, and humiliated in front of everyone, including my coworkers, for things that weren't even my fault, impermanence came into play. Because I realized that yes, that good thing that I had going was going to end at some point. It ended a lot sooner than I had planned, but in that moment, so too with the bad. The bad goes away just as quickly as the good stuff does. And so when I thought about the fact that my bank was destroyed overnight, it was comforting to realize that something else would be there tomorrow. Even if it wasn't what I wanted, something else would be in its place. And so Shanghai taught me that. This is, by the way, right outside my apartment. China doesn't prioritize soundproof windows, so I woke up to chainsaws that morning. So I really learned the impact of impermanence and what kind of influence it could have, not only in not only in the literal sense of the meaning of impermanence, but also in my own mentality and how I was looking at life. Oh, go back actually, I want to cover that. I forgot those were there. So I learned how to be confident in the decisions that I made because I understood that everything was impermanent. I knew that if I wanted to go and try something, I could do it. I wasn't going to feel ashamed because it was my decision of whether or not to feel embarrassed. I knew that I was going to be vulnerable in trying something new, but I also trusted that the people in my life, whether or not they were strangers, were going to help me along the way. When you open yourself up to being vulnerable and handing your life to other people, it's kind of amazing the stories that happen. And that's what this whole series is about, is the times in which I made myself vulnerable and decided that I was going to go 100% in it, and I came out a stronger person with relationships that will continue to change my life. So this goes for the entire rest of the series, is all about these relationships that I formed with complete strangers that helped me along the way. So I also learned to let go of control and to control what I could. So the biggest thing that I could control was my mentality. If I wanted to feel like a failure after my first postgraduate job didn't work out, I could feel like a failure. But if I wanted to take that opportunity to try something different and take the remaining $2,000 of my entire life savings and travel Asia alone, I could do that. And that's actually what I did. So on top of impermanence, all of these things kind of came into play with getting settled in Shanghai, and I learned all of these, and they came in handy in the next chapter of my life. So I want to talk about the law of attraction. So the law of attraction states that what you put out into the world, you receive back. and specifically the law of attraction essentially states if you think positive or negative, then positive or negative things are going to happen to you. But it makes it sound like if you think positive, then all your wishes are going to come true and the universe is going to hand you what you deserve. I don't know how long I've been thinking positive, but I've yet to win a free year of graders, okay? Like, no matter how much I think positively, that's just not going to happen. But then I realized that maybe it needed a little bit of reworking. So the energies that you put out, if you put out positivity, you're not bringing or asking for anything else positive. You're just bringing a different perspective to the table. So yes, my job ended up to be a total fluke, and I was upset about it for 3 solid months, and I let it weigh me down. And then I realized that it wasn't because I asked for it that I received it. It wasn't because I was being negative Nancy that I deserved this treatment. But I had been thinking positively, and I'd missed the fact that this was my free ticket out to travel alone and see the world the way that I really wanted to, which was just winging it. Spontaneity is my thing, and I realized that this was an opportunity to do it. So rather than feeling as though, I didn't deserve this because I've been looking so on the glass half full side of things, see it as that's something bad, but that can also be something good. So positive thinking doesn't necessarily mean the universe is going to hand you anything. It's going to hand you what it's going to hand you. But that positive thinking is going to aid you in seeing that as something neat. So I want to do an experiment real quick. Let's see, we're on time. I want you to close your eyes. Don't worry, I won't put signs on your back or anything. I want you to think about a moment that you felt like you didn't deserve something. Maybe it was your car broke down on your way somewhere really important. Maybe you lost someone in your life. Maybe you failed an exam. And I want you to sit with that frustration and that pain. And I want you to really think about it and feel it. Take yourself back to that moment where you were just, you were ready to just hit something. You were so angry and so unsure of why the world handed you this awful, awful thing. And just feel that and meditate on that. And I want you to find one reason why that thing was good. Did it introduce you to someone new? Did it force you to take a different perspective on something? Did you walk out of it feeling like you actually earned something? Did you push yourself through it in a way that inspired you and helped inspire others around you? Did you walk away a better person? And without opening your eyes, if you feel as though you have even a teensiest bit of appreciation for that moment, just raise your hand. Okay, now open your eyes more proudly. We all have these moments where we feel like we've been screwed over. The life just handed us something that we just didn't want. We didn't deserve, we haven't been working for that. And yet it has its way of bringing it full circle. And with the right perspective, we can put that into our consciousness and reprogram ourselves to see both the good and the bad as something that makes us whole. That's what this entire trip was about. I didn't move to Shanghai thinking that I was going to learn all this stuff. I really didn't. I thought that I was going to go there, I was going to do a job, and I was going to leave and come home and restart in the United States. I cannot express to you how fortunate I am to have had that job work out the way that it did. I am so grateful for the fact that it sent me on all of these other adventures and had all these other opportunities that made me the person that I am today. So next time you go towards a conflict in your life or something that is just butting heads with what you thought it was going to be, take a moment and see if you can find even the teensiest bit of appreciation for what it is. Because that is what's going to make you a better traveler, a better individual, a better parent, a better sibling, a better person. Open-mindedness is the key to all of this. If you have a closed mind, none of this is going to work for you. You have to be willing to look at something broken, or look at something confusing, look at something that you've never seen before and go, I can work with that. Because if we can't, nothing is going to work out. And it's been really interesting to see how, after coming back from Asia and having all of the experiences that I've had, seeing how this open-mindedness has come into play. Because I'm sure both of my parents will tell you I was pretty darn stubborn growing up. I wanted it my way or the highway, and that was it. Because I hadn't made up in my mind how things were going to be. And Asia forced me to realize that that's just not the way the world works. So if you practice open-mindedness, everything else, you'll be receptive to it all, and it will all come into your life. So like I said, my job didn't work out. I decided to quit. I had 3 months left and $2,000 to my name. And I said, you know what? I've been wanting to go to Shanghai. I've been wanting to go to Dunhuang. Why not go to the Gobi Desert? That sounds cool, right? I want to go to Indonesia. I want to go to Thailand. I want to go to Laos and Cambodia. And I want to do all the things that my parents said that I probably shouldn't do alone. So I did it. And next time, the next session is 2 Wednesdays from now on the 17th. Same time, same place, and I'm going to go through Western Asia with you and share the tricks and tips to traveling through China by yourself as someone who doesn't speak Mandarin. I went all the way out to Dunhuang, and they don't speak a lick of English there, and I was the only white person for probably 30 miles. So it was a very interesting experience because I had to learn all of those key aspects of my life that much faster. But I will be happy to tell you about the overnight train that I took for 12, 13 hours, carrying that backpack across an entire city from one train station to the other, getting a free banana along the way. Hey, things happen. So I'd be happy to share all those experiences with you next time. And just real quick, I do want to give a few thanks for my support system, on top of everyone who was here back home cheering me on. And you know, for the longest time I felt like I let those people down because I quit my job, but these people were here to cheer me on the entire way. So Jenny was my roommate in Shanghai. She moved in a little bit after me. We kind of became an old married couple. We would make grocery trips together and ride bikes and do those health weekend programs, and we also befriended. And then Jenny had a friend, Lisa, who came over. She was studying in Shanghai, and so we became very close. We went to Nanjing together, and she was another moral support for me as I kind of made some of the toughest decisions of my life. The Potter family, I actually have cousins who live in Shanghai, so they were very important in helping me get settled and kind of navigate my way around this foreign city. We learned how to make dumplings. They were a great go-to when I wanted a home-cooked meal and I wanted to just kind of escape the life that I had done really great at adapting to, but every once in a while we just want that home-cooked meal with the familiar surroundings. So they were an amazing, amazing support system as I battled through this job and trying to decide what to do with it, and every time that I left the country, they were right there when I got back. So they're actually back in the United States now, so I'm excited to have them a little closer. But we enjoyed a Thanksgiving dinner. And then my boyfriend, Josh, who actually came over halfway through my trip to visit me. And I wanted to share this with you because, both in bragging about the phenomenal person he is, and also because it's so true. He said, "This is your first full day in your apartment." I was freaking out about the fact that I had no idea what was going on. He said, "You are in a foreign country where you don't speak the language. The climate and the environment is nothing like you were used to. Things take time to settle and fall into place. When you fly over, do you not expect to take a few days to overcome the jet lag? So why are you not giving yourself similar room to adapt? This attitude is the same as if you are saying that you are weak-minded for not having jet lag after flying to China," which is a 15-hour flight, by the way. "No, that's not being weak-minded, that's being human. You are strong, stronger than most in this world, but you still fall under the umbrella of human, and you will feel the effects just like any other human." Pretty cool guy, right? But he brought that to mind. He said, you know what? If you're going to beat yourself up over being confused in a country for the first week, and you're not going to beat yourself up for 15 hours of a flight and the immense jet lag that comes with it, you just can't hold those to the same degree. But it's the same thing. We're all human. These things take time. It takes time to familiarize yourself with somewhere new and to reestablish your daily routine. And then last but not least, my wonderful family. My mom, who popped over to Beijing with me, but they offered an immense support system as well in kind of helping me work through these issues at work and being a place that I could come home to that felt refreshing and safe. They have been awesome the entire way, and especially in coming to all of these the series and the storytelling and letting me drag them along to literally everything since I got back. So thank you to everyone who's been such a phenomenal support, and to everyone, you know, in my family and the friends on Facebook and the people who followed the blogs along the way. All of you were so important to keeping my spirits high when it felt like things just weren't going my way. So thank you. It meant so much to me. And now, the moment you've all been waiting for, I have very exciting news. I'm working on writing a book, some of you know. It's going to be a compilation of all of the stories that the people that I met along the way that changed my life. It's a first-hand account of what it was like to move over to China by myself. I promise it's more fluent than the way I've been speaking tonight. But it's a comical collection of the different things that went wrong and the places that went right and the people that I met along the way. And thanks to my cousin Erin and to my boyfriend Josh, and this is not the actual thing, but this is the cover design. So it is called Gui Ren. Gui Ren is a written Chinese phrase that means the right people coming into your life at the right time to help guide you along a difficult road. And this phrase, I'm getting goosebumps to talk about it, guys, it's so exciting. This phrase meant everything to me. The people that I met truly came into my life at very spontaneous moments, and they held me in their hands and they said, "It's going to be okay, let me show you." All the way down to this scarf that was handed to me by a Chinese mother on my first train ride outside of Shanghai, who thought that I was going to be very, very cold in Xi'an, and she insisted on trying to feed me and giving me clothes. I could not speak to her without WeChat, without Google Translate, but it was her mission to give me this scarf to keep me warm, and that was just one of the phenomenal stories of the people that helped me along the way. So this is not the actual book, but I'm going to put this up there later if you'd like to take a look at it, just a little bit of a summary. So I'm not yet published, haven't even finished it, but I thought I'd let you know about it because I'm really excited to share these stories with everyone. And if you'd like to, I have a sign-in sheet back there. I have an email list, so hopefully I'll keep you guys updated on the process and the progress that I'm making. I have never dealt with publishers before, so I don't know how long this is going to take, to be totally honest. But if self-publishing is the way that I need to go, then I will do so to get you these stories. So I would encourage you to come to the next 2 sessions. It's going to be a little bit more involved of the stories behind the people that were in my life, as well as the precarious adventures and situations that I found myself on and in. So thank you again so much for coming, and I would love to take any questions that you might have. Go for it, yeah.
I think you are quite a great speaker, and you might think about that as a profession.
Oh, thank you.
I'm curious, are you thinking about putting the Chinese characters in the book so that, you know, there's a 2-way translation and understanding?
Mm-hmm. On the front cover, so when you open the book, that's what's going to be there. So it's going to have the 2 Chinese characters and then a description of what it means. Yep. Any other questions? Yes.
Did you have any health issues that you had to address while you were there, and how was that handled?
I did not in China. Actually, the first health issue that I really ran into, which I only realized this year, that was an untreated case of strep. So I just really exhausted myself. I was in transit from Indonesia to Taiwan, to Taipei. And I spent the night in an airport, was very dehydrated, didn't sleep a whole lot. I started going and trying to scrounge for orange juice because for some reason I thought it was going to help me that far into the illness. But that was really the only major illness that kind of set me back, was an untreated case of strep, which I just didn't have any way to diagnose when I was on the road. So I was very fortunate in not having any stomach issues. Some tips for that is straying away from don't drink the tap water, really anywhere in Asia. If you're eating fresh fruits and vegetables, make sure that they're fruits that have a peel to them, so that they weren't just soaking in the water. So things like apples, so it can even be a little risky depending on how, I'm looking for a word, I can't think of it, on how easy it is for you to get sick. So if you have a very delicate digestive system, even eating apples could put you at risk. But typically things that have a peel, and then I strayed away from fresh fruits and vegetables unless they were from a reliable place. Just because the health codes that I'm used to here aren't the same over there. So So it's not to say that it would make locals sick, but when I'm used to such sterile environment in the United States, it was dangerous to stray too far on a path. But I was very fortunate in not having any major health issues. So thank you for that question. I had a question on Facebook about dealing with the language barrier. And I kind of covered a little bit of that in here, but really Google Translate was my go-to best friend. I could even have people write in Chinese characters and it would translate it for me. Now granted, and I didn't include this picture because I couldn't find a good place for it, but I was sitting at the police station trying to register my passport when I first got there, and I was playing around with Google Translate, so I put the camera onto it, and it read back to me in a foreign noodle waiting. It meant foreigners wait here, is what my logic put together, because it was waiting for the foreigner registration for local residences. But in a foreign noodle waiting wasn't very helpful at the time. So with using Google though, you do have to download a VPN. I used ExpressVPN if you've ever had one. It's just a virtual private network to kind of allow you to use more than what China limits you to in terms of internet access. So as most of you probably know, China has a very limited internet access. So that VPN was crucial in being able to use things like even WeChat, or not WeChat, WhatsApp, which is another familiar messaging app that you might be knowledgeable about. So even using WhatsApp and anything Google related, I had to use a VPN. So it's a little bit slower, but it did the trick. Any other questions?
You kind of mentioned about the job not going the way you expected. Can you just say a little bit more about that transition?
Yeah, he's recalling the nights that I spent balled up in my bed with tissues all around me. It was not elegant, I'll tell you
Not
that.
everyone may know the story and understand the importance of that.
It was very important to me not to lose my self-respect. And I am not one to give up easily. So to have gone over for that purpose and then had it turn upside down, it was very hard for me to let go of trying to make it right. So I kept hanging on to this idea that it would get better, or that something would change, or he would come around and realize that he was treating me poorly, or his entire staff. I kept waiting for that moment where something would get better, and when I realized that it wasn't, it was heartbreaking. And I remember I sat across from him one time, and we were going back and forth about how I just wasn't understanding why I was there. And he said, if you don't want to be here, you don't have to be. I can get 2 skilled Chinese women in here for less than your price. And I thought, if that's truly how you feel about respecting your employees and the people who volunteer their time to make your entrepreneurial dream come true, you've entirely missed the point of being an entrepreneur and starting a social enterprise. Because if you can't get your team behind you, how are you going to expect to get the rest of the world behind you? And so that was one of the turning moments, and then I finally texted him and I said, can you guarantee that we're going to go to the rest of these countries that you promised that we would go to? Because that's where most of my paycheck is coming from, is getting to go to those places for free. And he said, I can't guarantee. And that's when I knew that it wasn't going to change, it wasn't going to get better. I spent a lot of time thinking about what that future might look like. First instinct was to give up and go home, because that was the easiest thing to do. And then I realized that I was still in China for 3 months, and my ticket home was already paid for, so I would be out more money paying to go home early. And so that's when I started to realize, and then I had a conversation with my roommate Jenny, who said, I want you to consider 3 things. Your finances, how is it helping you financially? How is it helping your career? And how do you feel about it? Financially, I was at a loss. A huge loss considering minimum wage here and the amount of debt that I was in. Career-wise, I had nothing to show for the time that I spent. Even 3 months, there's nothing I would put in my demo reel because I wasn't proud of it, and it honestly just wasn't to my level of expertise. And then obviously I was miserable. I woke up every day feeling like I had been wasting my time in Shanghai. I was a complete failure. I was letting down everyone back home who was so excited for me to go on this journey. And it was really hard for me to admit that that failure was actually the best thing that ever happened to me. And I didn't really realize that until I started getting on those trains and I started meeting people who gave me scarves and free bananas. I mean, the small things where you connect with someone and you look into their eyes and they have this joy because they're just so happy to be around you, even for that brief moment, that's what it's all about. I don't want to spend my life in a 9-to-5 job if I can't connect with people around me and share stories back and forth that move both of us in different ways. So storytelling is kind of a new concept to me. It used to be more digital and video and photos, and I'm finding that I like to be in front of people and connecting with you a lot more than being behind a screen, because there's something about that human connection that just makes things that much more joyful. And so that's what Boy Brand is about. That's what I'm making my mission now, is to kind of tell those stories, because that's what I want to walk away from Asia with. I don't want to walk away with the fact that I failed my first postgraduate job, because in my mind it led to something so much greater. Any other questions? Yes?
Could you go back to the first slide you have? Is it possible? The first one.
The very first one?
It's a long
Oh,
time.
Josh got it.
Okay, no, the first one.
With the title?
Just before you begin.
Okay. It's the picture of the bund.
Yeah, right there. Do you know the history of this?
I know very limited history about it. Would you like to tell us?
Yeah, when you talk about impermanence, you're talking about impermanence of buildings, but this is a demonstration of impermanence of an empty space. All this, I was watching it to grow 30 years ago. It was from empty space. When I crossed the first bridge that links this part to the old Shanghai proper, and this is all built in the last 30 years, and it's about 10 million people.
If you watch the time lapses,
This is Pudong, the island that's connected to the old Shanghai proper, and this is the new Shanghai.
Yes.
It wasn't existing until 30 years ago. So just to give you some history about this. And I crossed the first bridge before it was opened. First bridge from the old Shanghai to this island. This is an island, part of a big island where the airport is. And just go down south from this part is the island, is the airport. I crossed the first bridge before it was opened in 1991.
So it sounds like he and I should start doing talks together.
Just think about it. From New Amsterdam, I don't know how many of you know New Amsterdam, which is New York today. From New Amsterdam to New York took about 200 years. About 200 years, I would say. I can't remember exactly the date, but it was named New Amsterdam, not New York. New York's after the English took over. It was the Dutch who colonized Manhattan at the time. There's still a little Amsterdam part in New York, in Manhattan. So it took 200 years to build that Manhattan Island, and this one took 30 years.
Wow.
That definitely adds to the impermanence.
Yeah.
There is going to be something there tomorrow. Thank you so much for sharing that. I really appreciate it. Anyone else have any questions or comments? Weirdest food I tried. I'm surprised you guys didn't ask. Come on. Bone marrow, actually. My mom can attest to it. It's kind of weird. It's got a weird texture, but it's actually quite delicious. Bone marrow. I tried squid sushi, and then octopus, which is actually one of my favorites now. I really enjoy octopus. I did not eat scorpions on a stick because I can't do that. Bugs on sticks just don't kill me. And then that was also where I tried eggplant for the first time, which sounds so simple.
Yeah.
But when they make eggplant, it's delicious.
Wait, eggplant knew this.
All right, maybe I forgot.
Yes.
In my mind, I've never had eggplant before, so.
I disguised it.
Mom tricked me. So if you have any questions or anything that you'd like to share with me, certainly feel free to stay. Please do come back for the next presentation in 2 weeks. Same place, same time. I'm going to be covering Western China. and then the following one is in November. So I've got business cards back there. Feel free to put your email down. I'll send out an email reminder for our next session. And thank you again so much for coming. Thank you for everyone who watched it at home on Facebook Live. I really appreciate it.